Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. And I want to say Shalom to Akanakwath out there, pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this is a shorter little one. I mentioned yesterday I want to do a quick little lesson about tears, as I've been seeing a bunch of tears popping up all over Instagram. Some of these people might not just be tears. Some of them might just be, super coons, all right, aka, people that hate themselves, right? They don't like who they are, and they want to be more like the white man. And we see this with all of our people, all right, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, Native Americans, Latinos, all right, are a big, all right, progenitor of this, all right, of, basically thinking that they're white, all right. Now we got the so-called, as the world would call them, black or Negro, or, however they want to say. Now we got quite a few, really what they would be Southern Kingdom, all right, quite a few Southern Kingdom that are like that, but they don't really think they're white. They just want to be white. When you have Northern Kingdom, all right, with Issachar and them, some of them actually think they are white, all right. And these same guys that voted for Trump, and they basically think they're white until Esau comes against them, and then they really don't understand that they're hated as well. All right, so our people are just foolish. And that's the reason that a lot of our people are going to end up dying anyway. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. All right, we can go and start up with that. That's Hosea 4 and verse 6. It says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy power. I will also forget thy children." And and it's also a good time to do this lesson, because I've been seeing more and more and more. I just made a lesson not too long ago as a response to the elder apostle Tahar's comment board. It was called "Learn to Hold Your Peace, Jake." Now I was watching another lesson today by the apostle Tahar as well. Let me go ahead and find this page here. And it was titled PSA, they're starting to take down YouTube channels and other topics. And on here we have yet another Jake, or an idiot, that says, "You think everybody a Jake, and listening to Alex Jones, a known agent provocateur, discernment seems lacking, bruh." And then says, "You wouldn't even," the House of Israel 144 says, "You wouldn't even know what a Jake is if it wasn't for this man and other beautiful elders of GMS. Show your respect, you impudent subject." And I'll go ahead and like that. And it's true, because I was going to respond, but I didn't want to cause a controversy on the the apostles page. But yeah, he said, "You think everybody's a Jake. You wouldn't know what a Jake is. All right, you wouldn't even know what a Jake is. Okay, you wouldn't. Half these motherfucker these tag-alongs, all right, and that's really what they are, a bunch of fucking tag-alongs. They like to talk shit about the apostles. All right, meanwhile they're over here teaching everything that they wouldn't even have the breakdowns. All right, if Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai went to put it on the spirit of these great men, Ava Bivens, where it really started, and coming out of One West and on down, that was passed down through knowledge and spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai through these other great men. All right, with Apostle Tahar being one of them. Okay, you wouldn't even know to call yourself Judah. You wouldn't even be able to do all that. All right, you wouldn't be able to put fringes on your dog. All right, you wouldn't know about any of it. All right, so you do all this bullshit, all right, without giving honors, all right, to the men that taught you this through Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And that's how the Lord teaches us, through men. Okay, the Lord ain't gonna come down and just especially not speak to your simple ass. Okay, then you're over here doing all this shit John Doe. All right, you fuck around, the Lord's gonna make you into a John Doe. All right, so you think everybody a Jake. Listen to Alex Jones, a known agent provocateur. Discernment seems lacking, bruh. Well, you don't even know. Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, Alex Jones is set up in many ways, but there's a lot of shit that comes out through Alex Jones that is actually factual. Okay, like when they found out about, people thought he was crazy when he was talking about shit in the water that was turning the frog gaze, until they actually found chemicals that are being found in the water that was causing how would it be, hermaphroditism, all right, and making either frogs switch genders, all right, or grow extra appendages or shit, all right. But people thought he was crazy for saying that. Yeah, he's a little nuts at the same time, but there's information that comes out at the same time. Okay, but you wouldn't know anything about information, would you, John Doe? All right, let's see all the wisdom that you got. This guy's so smart, he's got to have videos for us to watch. Oh, and this guy's probably, I didn't check earlier, but his channel's probably brand new. No, March 22nd of 2014, and there ain't shit. All right, not a single bit of anything on his page. Okay, John Doe, and that, to me, when I see a title like John Doe, that sounds like you set up this page just to be a shit talker. All right, but anyway, you got guys like this. Now, everybody's a Jake. So you just don't know how things work. All right, you don't know how things are working. Okay, you're probably one of those guys that would be quick to let a Hamite in, all right, around you, and because of the color of their skin, all right, because of the blickety blackety blackness, right? You'd be quicker to let him in, all right, because of the blackness. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go before we're gonna start up. But before we really start up and getting into some of these videos, what do I want to get? I want to bring up, speckled bird, and I want to get we'll get a couple of these. But yeah, so the one thing you need to realize, Jake, is that, here you're a dumbass, and we're not saying you're not a Jake, okay? You could easily, Jake is simple, all right? Jake is simple. They only see their heritage as skin color, okay? So they'll look at a so-called white-looking person, all right, or a so-called Asian-looking person, or a so-called Middle Eastern-looking person, and they won't quantify them or categorize them as an Israelite in any capacity, all right? They just simply could not be. But then the one way to get them is when you look at people like me who have Israelite lineage, but, looks a different type of way, having, pale leprous skin, even the Iskarites, even if you go down in the South, there's so-called black people that are very, very, very light, that people on the West Coast probably wouldn't even consider black people, okay? But they're considered black over there. So, you don't really know shit at the end of the day, Jake. You don't really know anything. And you would see, someone that with a lighter skin complexion, such as myself, teaching, and you'd say, oh, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But then that would mean that I'd be an Edomite, and I, as an Edomite, would be teaching about the gospel of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And that really wouldn't make any sense, would it? And that's just Jake, all right, a fucking dullard. They don't know anything. They can't explain anything, because at the end of the day, they can't explain what they don't know, and they don't know shit, right? So they don't understand. They don't get the scriptures, all right? These people celebrate blackness, all right? That's what being an Israelite to them means, is it's black, all right? It's the melanation station, all right? The melanation nation, the station for the melanation nation, all right? That's what these channels serve them to as, right? It's the blackety blackness, right? That's what they love. And if it ain't black, then it's whack, and they don't want nothing to do with it, right? So, but that's just it just shows that they have a lack of understanding. All right, going back in the scripture, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Okay, and that's how Jake is. They're destroyed for lack of knowledge. They don't know who they are. They don't know who their people are. I mean, if you wade through the scriptures and you know that Jake is the salt of the earth, then someone like Eminem, he couldn't be an Edomite. So you're gonna say that an Edomite, here it is, you're gonna say black is better, black superiority, all right, black is best, all right, Jake is the strongest, they're the best at music, but then you're gonna say an Edomite has topped the charts and has sold more than any of these black record labels, and on top of that, not as only has he outsold records of black people, he's also known as the best battle rapper. So you're gonna say that an Edomite is dominating a Jake? That's not gonna happen, man. All right, unless you're factually fucked and your mind's all mixed up and muddled up, and it is, because you don't know what to think, because you're stuck on that black shit, man. This is Jeremiah 12:9. It says, "Mine heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. The birds round about are against her. Come ye, assemble all the beasts of the field, come to devour." So if the heritage is like a speckled bird, what color is a speckled bird if we're going off of color? All right, Well, a speckled bird is all sorts of different colors, all right? Purple, green, blue, brown, all right? Tan, beige, taupe, white, right? But you're over here saying, oh, no, we only come in one color, black. All right, even the even the nations, not the nations, but even the tribes differ in skin color, right? There's all varying levels of melanation. So you don't really know what you're talking about, but you just go off of looks. Okay, you go off of looks. And this is 1 Samuel 16:7. It says, "But the Lord said unto Samuel, Look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." Men are the ones that are looking on the outward. They're saying, oh, well, his hair, or his skin, or oh, his this. But the Lord knows who his people are, all right? And as we're going to get in today, about how you're declared as an Israelite, it all goes through your father's lineage. Okay, so if your father was an Israelite, but your mom was an Edomite, you're still an Israelite, all right? You can look that up on ChatGPT. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I have breakdowns on it somewhere in here. Let's see. That's something different, but I mean, these are still in the same vein because they're all talking about. Okay, well, no, we'll just do it. We'll do it anew. All right, we'll do it anew when we get there. All right. So I just want to show you a couple of these videos. We don't have to play too much of them. All right. Now people are saying, oh, this guy's mom's probably white. All right, or whatever. No, it's not really about whose mom is white or not. This guy's dad is probably white. All right, you can see.
I don't have a white mom. Hey, retards. I don't have a white mom, and my political views are not influenced by my ethnicity. We are just not retarded.
Exactly.
Yeah, we are conservatives. We are Christians. We are Trump supporters.
Yes. And we're educated. We read.
And appreciate the sanctity and the safety that comes attributed with a first world country. So if you don't belong here, please leave.
Okay.
Hey,
So the thing is, if your mom's that dark, how did you end up this light, buddy? So what's your dad? I'd be willing to bet. Oh. Hashtag mulatto. Oh, what is mulatto? 1 minute.
Mulatto.
A person of mixed white and black ancestry, especially a person with one white and one black parent. So that would mean if your mom's not white, that your dad is. And that's why you're acting like this, because you're a fucking Edomite. All right, and just because someone has a white parent doesn't mean they're instantly an Edomite. Now, most of the so-called white people you see are Edomites. So usually when you see that, yes, they're more than likely going to be an Edomite. But that's why you have to say more than likely, because there's still that chance that their dad might be a so-called white-looking person, but his great-grandfather was a black man. All right, and it's all really not that he goes back to the line of black. It's that they go back to the line of, that Shemitic line through Shem, all right, through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay, and it's not just Shem being a Shemite, all right, being Shemitic, because the Edomites are Shemitic, all right. We have the same father at the end of the day, all right, but it's about that bloodline Abraham, Isaac, through Jacob, all right. Jacob is the key on there, because you can go through Abraham, Isaac, all right, and stopping there, you could have Esau and a whole bunch of other nations, but when you go through Jacob was where the 12 tribes descended from, and mind you, that's where Yahushua, the one who the world would annually call Jesus Christ, descended from, and that's the line you're looking to be from. All right, is that line through Jacob, Israel. All right, whose name was later changed to Israel. And this guy, he thinks he did something, but these people don't understand it. These people out in the world are so fucking confused that they don't understand anything, man. They don't understand anything. And I'd be willing to bet that mom is probably an Edomite as well, all right, and not just a tear. And I say that because a lot of the time you'll see these, these black women that act just like white women. They talk like white women, and they get with these white men. And it's not always, she just hates herself, she's a coon, so on and so forth. No, some of the time, all right, she's getting with her people, all right. She's a tear, an Edomite woman that's just in a chocolate coating, all right, a chocolate wrapper, all right, but deep down inside, she goes back. I mean, look at Candace Owens, all right, that woman's an Edomite, okay? That woman is an Edomite. Then there's other ladies that I think are probably Israelites. That there's that lady, anti-abortion, black lady. She's known for doing it, and she should come up. That's not her. She's famous for doing a lot of. It's not her. See, that's Candace Owens. Candace Owens is an Edomite. All right, you can just tell she's an Edomite by the way she talks. There's another one. She's light skinned. I made a lesson about her not too long ago. She's very pretty. Let me see. Let me try to see. You know, Kamala Harris comes up. That's a great example as well because she has Elamite ancestry from her mom's side, and then her dad's side goes back to slave owners. All right, the Edomites. Okay, so she's just an Edomite, but they'd say, oh, she's a black woman, she's an Indian woman. No, she's just an Edomite. But you have underliers. All right, you have underliers. Let me see. Let me go and try to find anti-abortion black lady TikTok. Here it is. What's her name? This is the lady here. Okay, this is the lady here. I can't remember her name. But this is her, and I don't think she's an Edomite, right? I think she's just. I don't think she's a tear. I think she's just a coon, right? And matter of fact, she got called a coon once. And there's just something about her, you know. You can just, I don't know. It just, you just go off of how it, you know. There's a vibe, right? There's a vibe, and I think she is an Israelite woman. Okay, it's not about how she looks or anything like that. You know, Candace Owens is actually darker skinned than her, right? If you go to Candace Owens, right? Candace Owens is darker than her, but I believe Candace Owens is a goddamn tear. Okay, Candace Owens is a goddamn tear. And I have this phenomenon called, you know, me and my wife, you know, made up called tear face. There's something I've noticed. A lot of these people that are tears, they have this. I don't know. I get, you know, they say eyes are the windows to the soul, and there's something in the face. You can just, you can tell, like, it's their countenance, the way that they look. It's just like, it's not just about the way they look, and we know it's not that because the scriptures talk about it. You know, look not on his stature, on his countenance, right? But there's a look that they give off, right? It's just like how you can tell the harlotry of a woman, all right, through her eyelids, all right, as the scripture says, all right, roughly paraphrasing. There's a way, you know, you can almost tell that these people, there's just who's in there is not who is supposed to be in there, right? If you know what I'm saying, you know, their eyes don't match their body. Okay, they here it is with their Edomite like snake eyes, but they have this Jake exterior or this Edomite interior. Okay, and you can just, like I said, it's not a definitive way. You can't just look at someone and write them off. But once you know, start having you think like, oh, this person, you know, the way they talk, the way they move, it's, you know, and there's a lot of different factors to it, man, on how to tell who's a tear and who's not. Because, you know, just because someone, you know, you could have an Uncle Ruckus, Uncle Remus ass motherfucker out here that just is a tear and hates himself. Okay, but they're gonna act differently. As a tear is a Jake but hates themselves. A tear, on the other hand, might act similar, but they're different. Okay, and if you don't know, if you haven't encountered it, I don't really know how to explain it to you the best. You know, the brothers and sisters that have encountered it, they'll know what I'm talking about. But it's the same thing with a Jake. You start talking to a white person, a so-called white person, and after a while, this person might not be an Edomite. Okay, because Edomites, they act, you know, being that we're all of different nations act. They have different certain ways that they act. They have certain things that they do with their eyes, certain speaking patterns. And you can just, you know, you can just tell from the vibe that you pick up, as they say, a vibe, the spirit. You can tell from their spirit if they're a Jake or not. Okay? And, you know, these simple Jakes, they don't have the ability to discern. All right? They can't really tell. They just go off of blackness. So they would say, oh, someone like Candace Owens, that's just a Jake. She's not, that woman's not a Jake. All right, Candace Owens is not a Jake. All right, she acts just like an Edomite woman. She speaks like an Edomite woman. She stands up for the Edomites. She gets pissed when shit happens to Edomites because she's an Edomite. All right, she just doesn't know it. Okay, so, and you know, she might even know it. She might know it because, you know, being up in these higher ingrained circles, all right, you're only allowed in those. You know, if you notice, only certain people are allowed, and they allow certain black people, and I bet they're doing lineage checks, all right, and saying, oh, wait, you had a great white ancestor. That was your grandfather. All right, you can come in, Candace, right? And she wouldn't be upset about it, all right? She'd probably jump for joy finding out she's not a filthy Negro, right? That's how she'd feel. But, you know, so it can't go off of skin color. Like I said, she's darker than the other lady, but I think the other lady is just a coon. I think Candace Owens, on the other hand, is an Edomite. Okay, the other lady, I didn't really get, oh, she's just an Edomite. I got that, oh, she's just sticking up for the white man. Okay? And there's some in here that are 50-50. This guy and this woman, I feel like, are like Edomites. They're Edomites. This guy, I feel like, is an Edomite, and he's kind of suffers from tear face too. Now, this woman at the end, I don't know. I think she might just be a simple-ass Negro, all right, woman, that's a coon that just hates herself, right, at the end of the day. I don't really get tear vibes from her. She could be, but I didn't really get it from her. But this guy and this woman and this guy, all right, I did get it from. So here's this one too.
They loved having white Americans in their village. Now I done replaced them, and they are looking at me like, who, you? You that look like us? You're here to help us, to save us? What happened to the white people?
There's another thing, you know, this so-called black woman, Israelite woman, all right, down on the bottom with this pink-ass fucking hair, went over to Africa thinking she was going to be accepted, all right, and gets rejected, okay? And gets rejected, okay, because she thought that they were her people. No, different. You're an Israelite. They're Hamites, okay? They are Hamites, Hamitic people. Different, okay? They might look similar. Half the time they don't, but they're not the same people, okay? They're not the same people, okay?
And you bald, you ain't got no hair, and you childless, so you really not a woman. In their culture and at that time, you're not a full woman if you don't have children.
So this
says, notice how she says in their culture, not our culture. We should probably figure it out now, because they're not the same people. She's not the same. They're not the same people, right?
chick went to Kenya, and apparently the Africans didn't even want her. You listen to what she just said. These Kenyans told her that she's bald, that she doesn't have any children, so what can she teach them about anything? And they knew that probably they looked at her and they could, you know, see the bald hair, they could see the hair coloring, and they could see that she just looks like a leftist. And they're probably like, well, what is this woman going to teach us about anything, right? And they probably preferred the white Christian missionaries because at least the white Christian missionaries could teach them about Christianity. I don't know what this woman thought that she was going to give to Kenya. I don't know why she thought that she had some kind of roots in Kenya. Like, Black Americans need to start realizing that our roots are in America, okay? They are not in Kenya or Nigeria or Ghana or any of these other places in Africa. But like I said, a lot of people like Baldylocks over here have been spending way too much time on the internet, and the Kenyan people seem to have gotten her together.
And he seems a little zesty to me. Oh, I guess he is. Guess he is. Why gay conservatives? I was going to say, this motherfucker seems a little zesty to me. He's confused. He doesn't even know about anything. He's gay, and on top of that, he's you know, an Edomite. All right? Just like the Edomites usually are. All right? So, it's just funny. It's just funny. This guy doesn't even know. Well, he doesn't even realize that at the end of the day, even though he's an Edomite, they're still going to be coming for your black ass just because of the color of your skin, all right, even though you're a chocolate covered Edomite. Now, and that's why, you know, Proverbs 3:31, envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. Now, he's not necessarily the oppressor to you because you are him, all right, you're that same devil. But with these other people, you know, that one lady I showed, and then this lady, you know, you're gonna stand up for these Edomites, and you're gonna find out that they're not with you, man. They're not with you at all. So I'm going to go ahead and play this one, and then we're going to, you know, really just break down tears, all right, and then we're going to close out. You know, like I said, a little shorter one, about 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes. So let's go ahead and play this. And I'm not going to talk too much about this because I already tore this whole argument down, and she's trying to bring it back up. And a matter of fact, I'll break it down easier again for you, all right? I'll write it out in crayon to show you.
If you seriously believe the 13% of the population and 50% of the crime, you need to get fact-checked, and I'm about to do it to you. In 2016, white people committed 70% of the convicted crime, and black people only committed 27%. Then in 2017, white people committed 68% of the reported crime, and black people only committed 26% of it. And in 2024, white people committed 53% of the reported crime, while black people only committed 25%. So this narrative on 13% of the population, 50% of the crime is wrong.
Uh-oh, it looks like the white liberals sent Miniature Dan over here to get all the smoke. Well, his math ain't mathin', so let's get it. And you know, since you white liberals like to say that MAGA people have no degrees, I have a master's in accounting and mathematics, so this ought to work for you. Little Miniature Dan, come to the front. So black people are only 13% of the population. Crime is not spread evenly across the board because if it was, black people will only commit 13%. By your stats, Miniature Dan, 25% of the crime was committed by 13% of the population. That means it's double the population. 25 divided by 13 equals 1.92. You know what that means? That means crime is relatively high and disproportionate to the population that you're talking about. You know, the 13%? Yes. And that means crime is higher than expected. On top of that, you're a child. Stay in a child's place. Why don't you go play video games, go outside, you know, drink from the hose, do what you do? Why are you on the internet arguing with grown people? And I'm sure it's because your white liberal mom has said, hey, you can do whatever you want to do. You can choose to be whoever you want to be. Yeah, I want you to be a kid because people that are the same age as you, they identify with that. Try it.
All that with a Unity shirt on. Okay, here's how this works. Okay, let me roll it out and paint for you. All right, since you're too stupid even with your degree to get it, with your degree. Okay, you're right. All right, crime. All right, is disproportionately high within black communities. All right, but that still, at the end of the day, doesn't really mean nothing when we're getting down to sheer numbers of criminal statistics. Okay, here's how we're going to show you this. Okay, on this side, let's just draw a line. Okay, we'll just draw a line like this, and we'll draw another line like this. Okay, and we'll draw another line like so. If I could draw it. Actually, you know what? Yeah, we'll do that. And let me draw this other line. And I don't really even need to be all that fancy with it, but I'm going to do it anyhow. Right? And then finally, actually, you know what? The easiest thing to do up here would be one of these. But, so let's go ahead. And put, let's just put, we'll use purple people and green people, alright? Because there ain't no purple people and there ain't no green people. Okay, so we'll just use green. Oops. We'll use green. If I could hit the damn thing. There we go. Okay, green people. Alright. And then we'll do blue people. Right? Now. Alright. There are, let's go ahead and get the green people. Okay. So, there are, let me make sure it fills in too. Fill it in with crayon. Why is it not filling? Ah. That's how we do it. Got it. Okie dokie. So. That'll work with me. Okay. So. Green people. Right? We're going to say there's only one. I hate working with paint, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Okay? We're gonna say that there's only like 4 green people at all. Okay? I'm gonna literally write it out in crayon for you. Okay? There's only 4 green people at all. Okay? And we'll do 5, alright, or more. Oh, let me change the filling color. Okay? We'll do 5 of these blue people. They don't need to be perfect. Okay? Because some people need a visual aid. Because some people just don't get it. Some people just don't get it. Okay. Now, we'll actually just do one more. Okay. So there are 4 green people, alright? And there are 6 blue people. We'll even put this off to the side. Okay. Making sure everything's real simple for everyone to see. Okay. So you got 4 green people and you got 6 blue people. Now, say that they were buying a banana, all right, or they were buying an apple, right? They were buying an apple. Okay. And we'll just draw a little apple here. Okay. Not the best apple, all right, but let's do that. And so you have let's copy that. So 2 of these guys went ahead and bought apples. Okay, 2 of them. Okay, now that's going to equate into 50%. Okay, 50% bought an apple. Okay? So 50% bought an apple. Now, because there's only 4 of them, and 2 of them bought it, and the maximum of the population being 100% is 4, okay? 4 people make up 100% of the population, okay? Because that's all there is. And 2 of those people bought an apple and 2 didn't. That means 50% of that population bought an apple. Okay? Now, we're going to go over here, all right, to the blue people. And we're going to make it. Let me go ahead and draw another apple here. Okay. Let me go ahead and move it. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3. All right. 3 people that went and bought this same apple. Okay? And I'm just going to do the math there real quick, because what percentage is that? If there's 6 people of a specific group and 3 bought apples, what percent bought apples? Oh, well, yeah, well, if you do 3. Let's do... That's right, because I did 2 and 3. That's still proportionate. That's 50 and 50. But I meant to do 4. But this still works. This still works. This still works. Because 50% bought an apple. Right? I was going to do it a different way, but, you know, hey, I calculated it wrong, and it actually ends up working better. Right, for what we're talking about, because I was going to make there be a disproportionate amount of apples that were bought per people, but this is fine. All right, this is fine. It still can prove it this way. So you had 2 of the green people buy an apple, so 50% bought an apple, and 50% of the green people is 2. Okay, now the blue people, 50% still bought an apple, but 3 of those people bought an apple. Okay. So it looks like per capita, using that per capita, that green people buy more apples. Okay? And sure, you could say it's a disproportionate amount that are buying apples compared to the blue people, right? But blue people are still more likely to buy an apple because they're more of the population. Okay, so I can go back here and say, okay, so if there are 4 green people and 2 bought apples, and there are 6 blue people and 3 bought apples, that would make it look like green people buy more apples, but blue people were in fact buying more since their numbers are higher. So it says exactly, you're touching on a really important idea related to proportions versus totals, and it's a great example of how data can be misleading if not carefully interpreted. It already knows where it's going. Okay, green group, total 4 people, 2 of them bought apples. Percentage, 2 out of 4 times 100, 50%. All right, now the blue group, or 2 to 4 divided by 100, all right, equals 50%. Blue group, total, 6 people. Mind you, I'm not great at math, so I'm just, going through it. That's why I'm using ChatGPT at the same time. So you go, oh, you suck at math. I do suck at math. You're absolutely correct, but I'm still going to prove the point. Blue group, total is 6 people, 3 bought apples, still 50%. All right, so both groups had the same rate of apple buying, 50%. But more blue people bought apples than green simply because they were more blue people overall. Why it looks like green people buy more. If you only look at raw numbers like 2 versus 3, it's easy to mix the rate. It's easy to miss the rate, and if the data was shown without context of the group size, someone might incorrectly think that one group is more likely to buy apples. This concept is something called Simpson's paradox, where trends and subgroups can disappear or reverse when combined. Would you like a simple visual or example of that paradox too? No? That's fine. But do they use this same paradox to make certain races look worse? It says, and that's a thoughtful and important question. Yes, statistical misrepresentation, sometimes intentional, sometimes accidental, has been used historically and in present to make certain racial or social groups appear to be worse in various contexts. So here's how it happens. Misleading percentages. If one group has a smaller population, raw numbers can be misleading. For example, if Group A has 50 people in jail and Group B has 100, without knowing how many people are in each group, this is meaningless. If Group A only has 1,000 people and Group B has 100,000, the rate of incarceration is much higher for Group A, even though the number is smaller. And that's the other thing. They say that there's more more crime is done by black people, and that's not true. White people are the bigger demographic, so more crime, they do more crime. Okay, it doesn't matter. You can say, oh well, they're more likely to commit, black people are more likely to commit crime, on a statistical basis because of, their small number. It doesn't matter. All right, whether it's disproportionate or not, the fact of the matter is that white people do more crime because they're the bigger number of people. That's how you do statistics. All right, and I'm just a dumbass that don't even do math and fucked up the first half of the equation in the first place. All right, and we could figure that out. Okay, so it's not always about don't save, just get rid of it. So it's not. It's you're rolling off the information that Esau force fed you, right? And all the people that are plotting and appraising you usually are just a bunch of Edomites, okay? Usually just a bunch of Edomites. Now this guy is a simple, I don't even know what he is, but we'll look into him. All right, but most of these people, right? We got one black guy, all right, and I imagine he probably has the same type of content on his channel. Well, let's see who your demographic is. Okay, well, this is you. Okay. So we got this white girl, this I don't even know what this guy is. Black, I guess. He looks light in some of his photos, dark in some of his photos. So, I guess he's a black guy, even though he looked more like almost Middle Eastern in this photo. But, so we got another black guy. Okay. Then who do we got over here? This guy is, I don't even know what he is. Right? Some type of, you know, proud, normal gay dude. All right? Just regular gay dude. All right? Of some brand of scent. Another white guy. Another white guy. Another white guy. A black woman who's desperately trying to be white. I thought this was a white woman at first, especially off of her picture. But no, you can see, man, she did the way she does her. Those blue contacts. That's ridiculous. A black woman who hates herself. Okay, another Edomite. And I don't know what this guy is. Some type of, I don't know, but look at all his friends. So, and then you got this guy. So, simple. You got some Jake, but a lot of Edomites. Okay, and that's how it goes. And you see your whole thing is just ridiculousness. Okay, it's just ridiculousness. And you just love Daddy Trump, right? That's your whole thing. But you're wrong. You're wrong about your statistics, and it's hilarious. And you're still probably a Jake, all right? Because you got that that badass fucking attitude on you, all right? Like a so-called black woman would have. You got that fucking badass fucking attitude. Ain't nobody want to be around. So, but anyway, we're gonna go ahead and prove some more things for you, right? So, we're gonna go ahead and get. Numbers 1 and 18, and we'll have ChatGPT break it down to us. It'll be easier that way, right? So because that way you can't say, oh, I tried to do or say something. We'll just get it that way. So I'm gonna read it first. So Numbers 1 and 18 reads, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. Now, they declared their pedigrees after the families by the house of their fathers. Now, that's why everything goes back to paternal, paternal, paternal. If you look through the Bible, it's all paternal. And paternal, and as a matter of fact, if you even look up the word pedigree, it's going to talk about it on a paternal level. Now, definition, all right? Now, it says a pedigree is the record of descent of an animal showing it to be purebred, or the recorded ancestry, especially upper-class ancestry of a person or family. You're also going to get the word ethnicity or race from here. You see race, all right, parentage, paternity, all right, paternity in itself.
Paternity.
The state of being someone's father, okay? And even Google didn't hide that, all right? It doesn't say anything about maternal, all right? It says paternal, bloodline, blood, your breed, okay? Your breed. What is your breed? Let's see. Breed, stock of animal or plants within a species having distinct appearance and typically having developed by deliberate selection. So, type, kind, variety, stock. All right, class, genre. Okay, generation. Okay, so that the pedigree. All right, your line, your lineage, your genealogy. All right, your race.
Race.
Okay, race. Okay, which fastest. Here it is. All the way on the bottom.
Race.
Each of the major groupings into which humankind is considered in various theories or contexts to be divided on the basis of physical characteristics or shared ancestry. So that is determined by what? Your father. Okay? They declare their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. So you are what your father is. So if your father was an Edomite, you're an Edomite. Doesn't matter that you had a black mom. Doesn't matter. Okay? So, and just because your father's white looking doesn't mean that he's an Edomite. All right? He might go back through the line of Jacob. All right? Somewhere back in the past. Now, how do you know if you can't tell? All right? Because you can't go and get your ancestry done, because that's just a scam, and they're going to use all your fucking blood for a bunch of shit, Jake. So how do you know? Well, do you understand this truth? Do you get this gospel? Can you call upon Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai? Do you understand that he's a so-called black man? All right? Do you understand that the Edomites, all right, are the so-called white man today, and all the things in the Bible lead up to who he is, all right, showing you who he is, and that this is the devil that the earth is given into the hands of, all right. This is the wicked, all right. This is the wicked, all right. The earth is given in the hands of the wicked. Who's in rulership right now? Esau. Who's on the money? Esau. Okay, if you can get that, you're more than likely a Jake. Okay, if you can't, you're either a 2/3 or another nation, right? So, and just not getting that is not enough. You might have someone that doesn't get it and they don't like it, but you can still tell they're a Jake by the way they act, okay? By the way they act. So that's how race is declared, okay? Now, we can make it really easy and just have ChatGPT. So I can get numbers 1 and 18. I'll actually post the whole thing for them. And after this, we're really going to close out, okay? Because it's simple, okay? And I'm going to say, have a few questions about this scripture. I can't see my keyboard, so I'm trying to type normally, but... So it says, all right, shoot, what are your questions about it? Break it down. Because it's easy, all right? A bunch of people that were of Israelite lineage, okay, came, declared their pedigrees after the house of their fathers. That's how it goes, right? But I want to see what it says. Break it down. Okay? Yeah, no problem. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. That's talking about Moses and Aaron gathering all the tribes of Israel together. This happened in the second month after they left Egypt, basically as part of organizing the nation. And they declared their pedigrees after their families, which this means that each person had to prove their family lineage, who they descended from, declared their pedigrees, they traced their ancestry or bloodline by the house of their fathers. Lineage was determined by the father's line, not the mother's. Your tribe, inheritance, and standing were based on your father's household, according to the numbers of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. This part is about the census, counting all the men 20 years and older, those eligible for military service, by their polls, means literally one by one, name by name. So in plain terms, Moses and Aaron gathered everyone together and took a census, verifying each man's bloodline through his father's side, and counted all males 20 and up for the purpose of organizing Israel by tribes and preparing for battle or service. You want me to go into the historical, spiritual meaning behind the context, or behind it next? No. That's fine. So all these men that lined up were Israelites. Yes, everyone being counted there were Israelites descended from the 12 tribes. The whole point of the census was to organize Israel's army and community structure. All right, we can continue on. So their mothers didn't matter. I'll ask it as a question, i.e., if their father was of Judah and their mother was from Ham, they would be a Judite, like their father. Yes, that's right. In ancient Israel, lineage and tribal identity were determined strictly through the father's line, not the mother's. And you simple-ass Negroes over in these bug-out camps, all right, GMS is the only one teaching it truthfully, all right, and they're affiliates, okay? So, and I'm not a part of GMS. I'd be considered in the bracket of affiliates, okay? But these simple-ass, dumb-ass fucking people that are calling themselves in the truth, if you call yourself in the truth, you can't ignore the big picture, all right? And it's in the name, truth. You have to have the truth. And you don't have the truth. You're just a bunch of bug-outs, man. All right? So, it says, if a man's father was from Judah, even if his mother came from another nation, say Hamite or Moabite or whatever, the child would still be considered of the tribe of Judah. His inheritance, land rights, and tribal placement all came through the house of his father. That's why Numbers 1 and 18 makes a big deal out of declaring their pedigrees by the house of their fathers. The maternal line did not affect tribal identity or standing in Israel. Only the paternal lineage did. So you could have a man or woman that looked like a Judite, spoke like a Judite, walked talked and moved like a Judite, but had a Judite mother and a heathen father, and they wouldn't be a Judite even though they appeared to be. It says, yes, exactly. Under that system, they wouldn't be considered an Israelite no matter how they looked, lived, or act like one. If their father wasn't from Israel, then by biblical law and custom, their lineage did not trace through any of the tribes. So even if their mother was fully Judah, the child would still be counted as belonging to the father's people, not Israel. That's the key difference on how ancestry worked back then. It wasn't about culture, language, or looks, and it still isn't. We have that same culture to this day. All right, we're going back to how it was supposed to be. All right, and the bloodline, as it says, it was about bloodline to the father. It's not about, oh, I'm black, but you have a black mom, you have a white dad. You're not of us. Okay, you know, it don't matter if you're white looking. All right, if you go back through that the line of Israel, all right, through your father, it don't matter if you're white, purple, green. It don't fucking matter what you look like. You can be fucking pale as hell. All right, and it doesn't matter. All right, it's all about lineage. Lineage. I look like a so-called white person with a little bit of Mexican flavor, all right? But it doesn't even matter because people, you know, if they found out that I was a, you know, so-called Mexican, they still wouldn't. They'd say, oh, Mexicans aren't Israelites, because now you're on that dumb shit as well. All right, so I guess, you know, I'm an anomaly. I'm a heathen, but I love teaching about Yahweh Shemiao Shai. Make that make sense. It don't make sense because you're a fucking idiot, all right? And that's what it is at the end of the day. But... and you couldn't understand how, even though I look like a so-called white person and would so-called more than likely go back, have Mexican lineage, all right, and on top of that, you wouldn't understand that I believe that I come from either Judah or Benjamin, all right, probably leaning more towards Benjamin as I've thought about it more, but you know, you wouldn't be able to understand that. So wait, you're saying you're a white-looking person, all right, with family, with your father's father more than likely being Mexican, all right, with someone down his line being a Judite or a Benjamite. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to understand that. Okay? It's not about appearance. All right? It's not about how we keep track now. It's about how we kept track back then. All right? Now they account, oh, the mom's, you know, part Indian and the mom's part, you know, this, and the mom's part black, and she's got part of this and that, and the dad, you know, he's got part Irish and Mexican and, you know, Spanish and part, you know, Guatemalan and Puerto Rican and all this, and, you know, there, you know, he's 30%, you know, African, 20%, you know, no, that's that new shit. All right, you are 100%, all right, what your line goes back to. You're 100% Judite, 100% Benjamite, 100% Levite, all right, 100% Israelite, all right, of some flavor, or 100% Edomite, or some flavor of heathen. All right, that's how it is. You're not 10% this. Oh, I'm 20% Edomite, but the rest of my no. That's this new modern shit. It's whatever your father was, you were. All right, whatever his father was, he was. Whatever his father was, he was. Whatever his father. So it doesn't matter if your dad says, oh, I'm white, you know, we're white, or oh, you know, we're Mexican, or oh, we're this or that. It doesn't matter. What was his father's father? All right, going all the way back, tracing it back. Did you eventually, if you keep on tracing it, will you eventually end up as Jacob? All right, will you eventually end up with Jacob, or will you not? All right, that's what it's about. And it don't matter what you look like. All right, there's, you know, are there, and it should be able to pull them much. Are there examples of heathen mothers with a Israelite man and the children being Israelites? Now, it should be able to get, I believe, Ephraim and, is it Manasseh? They should be able to pull those ones up. Yep, there we go. Joseph, Genesis 41 and 45, and then 50 through 52. Joseph married Asnath, an Egyptian woman, daughter of Potiphar, a priest of On. All right, so a Hamite woman. Their sons were Ephraim and Manasseh. They were born, and they were both counted as full tribes of Israel. Genesis 48 and 5. And now thy 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt, before I came unto thee in Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. So despite having an Egyptian mother, they were Israelites through Joseph's line. Boom, 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 boom. And you can keep on going on and going on and going on. Okay? So, there we go. All right? So, Boaz and Ruth, you know, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this if it saves it, Lord willing. Because, you know, Jake is so damn simple, they don't understand anything anymore. Right? They don't understand anything anymore. And these people don't understand. I'm black. Don't you know I'm black? All right, yeah, I have a black mom. I have a black mom. So what if my dad's white? I don't give a fuck. I'm still black. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. Well, maybe with that attitude you might be. All right, but no, that's not how it works. It doesn't matter that one of your parents, your mom doesn't matter at the grand scale of things with your lineage. She matters about nurturing you and being a parent and being there for you. You know, the women matter. All right, and we love the women, but they don't matter in a genealogical level. Okay, they matter in other ways, but their pedigree is not your pedigree. They are from the seed line of their father. You are from the seed line of your father. Okay, so your mom and you are from different bloodlines, but you and your dad are from the same bloodline. You get it? You get it? Probably not. But short, a little lesson. That's where we're going to leave it. Yeah, so simple, all right? If you can't get it, then, hey, you can't get it. Might not be a Jake, all right? Or maybe you're just dumb. So that's the end of the lesson. All right, Lord willing, was edifying. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rakak Badash. I want to say shalom to your brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing, shalom.